Welcome back to the Global Ledger. I'm Justin. Today's special edition is something I think a lot of people need. Whether you're a trader, a policymaker, a student, a banker, or just someone who's tired of hearing 100 different explanations for how the global financial system really works. This episode, I wanted to touch on why it's so hard to understand the global dollar system. And by the end of this conversation, I hope you'll have somewhat of an understanding, and an understanding something most people never realize. It's not hard because you're not smart enough, or it's or anything like that. It's hard because the system itself is fragmented. It's invisible. It's asymmetric, constantly changing, and fundamentally counterintuitive. So, but once you see the structure behind it, once you see the hierarchy, the balance sheets, the market plumbing, the promises, the collateral flows, everything starts to click. Let's get into it. So the global dollar system was never designed. It really emerged. Most people subconsciously expect the global financial system to be like a government building, planned, designed and organized. But the truth is, no one designed the global dollar system. It just piece by piece, crisis by crises, and innovation by innovation, it evolved. Banks created the eurodollar market in the 1950s because the U.S. regulated interest rates. Repo markets expanded in the 1970s because balance sheets needed financing tools. Derivatives exploded in the 1980s as hedging became institutional. Shadow banking grew in the 2000s because investors wanted safe assets with yield. Swap lines expanded in 2008 because the world ran out of dollars. And offshore dollar markets ballooned because the world needed more liquidity than the U.S. domestic system could supply. This wasn't a blueprint. It was improv, really. And so, and systems that evolve instead of being designed are extremely hard to understand because they don't follow simple rules. They follow incentives. So the system is global, but information is local. Most confusion comes from this pretty much one simple fact, and that is no one sees the whole system, not even central banks. Everyone sees their little slice of the system. As an example, the Fed sees reserves and U.S. banks. The BIS sees cross-border claims. Repo desks see collateral shortages. FX desks, as an example, see dollar hedging demand. Treasury sees funding needs. Dealers see balance sheet constraints. Money market funds see flows. And households see interest rates. So no single institution, not the IMF, not the Fed, not the BIS, has a live, unified picture of the global dollar machine. So what we call the dollar system is really a U.S. system plus a European system plus an Asian offshore system plus a derivative system plus a collateral system plus a shadow banking system, all stitched together by promises and funding flows. It's hard to understand something fragmented across dozens of markets and thousands of balance sheets. And that's exactly what this system is. This is is the part that shocks people. The global system doesn't run on money the way we imagine it. It runs on balance sheets. So assets on one side, liabilities on the other, and promises everywhere. If you don't think in balance sheet terms, the system feels random. Because what moves markets isn't inflation data, GDP, politics, or even interest rate decisions. What moves markets is funding conditions, collateral needs, leverage limits, hedging obligations, liquidity cycles, regulatory constraints, and dealer balance sheet capacity. This is the heart of it, and finance is not about money. It's about promises, collateral, and the ability to roll funding tomorrow. So this invisible, this can be invisible to the average person, and even to many professionals. So if you watch financial news, you'd think the key markets are stocks, treasury yields, interest rates, exchange rates. But the real system operates beneath those, and markets most people never hear about. FX swaps, eurodollar funding, repo, derivatives, margining, securities lending, collateral transformation, dealer balance sheet intermediation, swap lines, money market funds flows, offshore wholesale markets. These are not shadow because they're illegal. They're shadow because they're not visible to the public. They don't show up on CNBC. They don't show up in Econ 101. They barely show up in traditional macro models, but they are the plumbing that keeps the entire financial architecture standing. So most people are trying to understand the building by looking at the wallpaper, not the foundation. And in this episode, it is about the foundation. People imagine money as an object, something physical, like a coin or a dollar bill. But the modern system is built on deposits, repos, swaps, derivatives, credit lines, collateral agreements, settlement obligations. These aren't objects. They're promises. Promises from banks, from dealers, from central banks, from institutional investors. In the hierarchy of those promises, who can settle with whom, at what level, in what collateral, determines everything. So if you don't see the hierarchy, you can't understand the system, because in stress, it's the hierarchy that matters. Banks settle at the Fed, dealers settle with repo markets, corporations settle with banks, foreign institutions settle through FX swaps, central banks settle through swap lines. Those layers are invisible. And what you can't see, you really can't understand. So here's another reason the system is hard to understand. The rules change constantly. So when you study physics, gravity, it doesn't get rewritten next year. But in global finance, new regulations appear, new instruments evolve, collateral standards shift, dealer models change, central banks create new facilities, crises reshape incentives, and technology introduces new settlement systems. So the moment you think you understand the system evolves. So understanding the global dollar is not like learning a fact, I should say. It's like learning how to navigate weather patterns almost. They don't stop. You just learn how to interpret them. How do we see the system clearly? So if the system is unplanned, fragmented, invisible, promise-based, and constantly shifting. How do we make sense of it? And that's what I hope to do here on the global ledger. We approach the system through balance sheets, collateral flows, funding markets, global hierarchies, dealer behavior, liquidity cycles. We tried to connect the dots across money markets, shadow banking, valuation, international finance, central bank actions, in global political decisions. And we present it in a way that removes fear, hopefully reduces confusion, clarifies incentives, and reveals the hidden structure that everyone feels, but almost no one can seem to explain. So understanding comes not from memorizing facts, but from seeing the architecture behind the noise. And that's what we hope to build here. So thank you for listening to special edition 2 of the Global Ledger. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the global financial system, I hope today's episode show you why, and more importantly, why the complexity, isn't your fault. The world dollar system wasn't built to be understood, but it can be understood with the right map, and that's what this podcast is for. So until next time, I'm Justin, and thanks for being here.